In the quiet aftermath of a historic loss, the passing of Queen Elizabeth II on September 8, 2022, marked the end of an era that had defined stability for decades. Across the United Kingdom and far beyond, tributes poured in for a monarch whose reign symbolized continuity, discipline, and tradition. Yet behind the public mourning, a more complex transformation was already unfolding. The monarchy, long guided by carefully structured systems of inheritance and responsibility, now faced a moment of internal recalibration. Titles shifted, roles evolved, and the future direction of the royal institution began to take shape under the leadership of King Charles III. But within this transition, whispers of an unexpected development began to circulate, one that would challenge long-standing assumptions about power, legacy, and belonging within the royal family. According to emerging claims, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, a couple who had stepped away from official royal duties and built a new life abroad, were subtly linked to ownership of a deeply personal royal estate once associated with the late Queen. If true, such a transfer would represent far more than a financial arrangement. It would signal a shift in influence, placing a historically significant asset into the hands of individuals who had, in recent years, stood at the edge of the institution rather than its center. The idea alone was enough to stir debate. Could a couple who had publicly distanced themselves from royal life now hold a key piece of its private legacy? And if so, what did that mean for the future of the monarchy? To understand the weight of such a claim, one must consider what these estates represent. Properties like Balmoral Castle and Sandringham House are not merely residences. They are deeply personal sanctuaries, woven into the emotional and historical fabric of the royal family. These are places where monarchs have retreated from public life, where family traditions have been preserved across generations, and where some of the most private moments in royal history have unfolded. Ownership of such estates carries symbolic weight, signaling trust, continuity, and a direct connection to the legacy of the crown. Within this narrative, the reported involvement of Harry and Meghan takes on added significance. For years, their relationship with the monarchy has been defined by both affection and tension. Their departure from royal duties in 2020 marked a turning point, raising questions about independence, identity, and the boundaries of royal responsibility. Yet despite the distance, both geographic and institutional, Harry's personal connection to his grandmother remained widely acknowledged. Queen Elizabeth II was often described as a steady and supportive presence in his life, maintaining a bond that endured even as public narratives focused on division. If the estate connection were to reflect that bond, it would suggest a more nuanced story, one not defined solely by conflict, but by continuity and personal trust. In this light, the alleged transfer becomes more than a headline. It becomes a symbol of how private relationships within the royal family can influence decisions that carry public consequences. It also raises deeper questions about how legacy is passed down, not just through titles and formal roles, but through personal choices that may not always align with institutional expectations. However, such a development would not exist in isolation. Within Buckingham Palace, any shift in ownership or influence is likely to be viewed through the lens of tradition and stability. The monarchy operates on carefully maintained structures, where roles and responsibilities are defined not only by family ties, but by constitutional and historical precedent. A move that appears to bypass or disrupt these structures could be seen as a challenge to the established order. For senior members of the royal family, including Prince William, whose role includes stewardship of major royal assets, such a shift might raise concerns about balanced hierarchy and the long-term direction of the institution. Public reaction, too, would be deeply divided. Supporters of Harry and Meghan might view the development as a sign of recognition, a confirmation that their connection to the royal family remains meaningful despite past tensions. Critics, on the other hand, could interpret as contradictory, questioning how individuals who chose independence from royal duties could simultaneously hold influence within its most private domains. In the modern media landscape, where every royal decision is analyzed in real time, such a story would inevitably become a focal point for debate, speculation, and interpretation. At its core, this narrative reflects a broader truth about the monarchy in the 21st century. It is an institution rooted in tradition, yet constantly adapting to changing expectations. The balance between personal freedom and public duty, between legacy and reinvention, has never been more delicate. Whether viewed as a symbol of continuity or a sign of disruption, The idea of Harry and Meghan holding a piece of the Queen's private legacy highlights the evolving nature of royal identity in a world where history and modernity increasingly intersect. In the end, the story is not just about property or inheritance. It is about what those things represent: power, belonging, and the enduring influence of family ties. As the monarchy continues to navigate its next chapter under King Charles III, narratives like this, real or speculative, serve as a reminder that behind the titles and ceremonies lies a deeply human story, one shaped by relationships, choices, and the ongoing effort to balance tradition with change in a world that is always watching. As the story unfolds further, attention inevitably shifts to the broader implications such a development could have on the internal dynamics of the royal family. The British monarchy has long operated on a delicate balance of hierarchy, duty, and tradition, an unwritten system that determines not only who holds power, but how that power is exercised. Within this structure, figures like Prince William have taken on increasingly central roles, representing stability and continuity for the institution. His stewardship of major royal responsibilities reflects a model grounded in tradition, where change is gradual and carefully managed. In contrast, the reported rise and influence of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle introduces a different energy, one that appears more independent, more modern, and, to some observers, less predictable. This contrast alone is enough to create tension, not necessarily through open conflict, but through differing visions of what the monarchy should represent in a rapidly changing world. From a documentary perspective, what makes this situation particularly compelling is not just the question of ownership, but the symbolism attached to it. Royal estates have always been more than physical assets. They are markers of trust, responsibility, and continuity, passed down through generations as both privilege and duty. If Harry and Meghan are indeed connected to such an estate, it raises questions about how these symbols are evolving. Is this a sign that the monarchy is becoming more flexible, willing to redefine its own traditions? Or does it suggest a deeper internal struggle over identity, relevance, and control? These are not simple questions, and they do not have simple answers. But they highlight the complexity of a net must constantly balance its historic roots with the expectations of a modern global audience. At the same time, the personal dimension of the story cannot be ignored. The relationship between King Charles III and his younger son has been the subject of intense public scrutiny for years. Reports of distance, disagreement, and attempt at reconciliation have painted a picture of a bond under strain, yet not beyond repair. In this context, any decision involving inheritance or access to royal assets takes on added meaning. It becomes not just a matter of protocol, but a reflection of personal choices and emotional ties. If there is even a possibility that such an estate connection exists, it could be interpreted as a gesture, subtle, perhaps, but significant, within a larger effort to navigate a complicated family relationship under the gaze of the world. Meanwhile, the role of Meghan Markle adds another layer to the narrative. As someone who entered the royal family from outside its traditional framework, her presence has always challenged established norms. Supporters see her as a force for modernization, bringing new perspectives to an often defined by its resistance to change. Critics, however, argue that her approach has disrupted long-standing traditions and contributed to tensions within the family. In the context of estate ownership or influence, these differing views become even more pronounced. Every action, every decision, is likely to be interpreted through this polarized lens, turning even routine matters into subject of intense debate. Public perception plays a crucial role in shaping the impact of such stories. In today's media environment, narratives can spread quickly, often blending verified information with speculation. For many observers, the idea of Harry and Meghan gaining access to a significant royal estate fits into a broader storyline, one that frames their journey as a mix of separation and continued connection to the they once served. Whether seen as a rightful extension of family ties or as a controversial shift in tradition, the story resonates because it touches on themes that are both timeless and deeply human: belonging, identity, and the search for balance between independence and heritage. Looking ahead, the long-term implications of this narrative, real or speculative, are likely to depend on how the monarchy continues to evolve. Under the leadership of King Charles III, there's already been discussion of a more streamlined, focused royal family, one that adapts to modern expectations while preserving its core values. Within this vision, Every decision carries weight, shaping not only the internal structure, but also its public image. Stories like this, regardless of their factual basis, highlight the challenges of managing that image in an era where transparency is demanded, yet tradition still holds strong. In the end, what emerges from this unfolding narrative is a portrait of a monarchy at a crossroads. It is an institution defined by history, yet constantly influenced by the present. The figures at its center, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, Prince William, and King Charles III, each represent different facets of that evolution. Their choices, relationships, and public roles combine to shape a story that is still being written. And as with any story rooted in both legacy and change, its true meaning may only become clear with time. As the narrative deepens, another critical dimension begins to emerge. The question of legacy, not just as inheritance, but as responsibility. For centuries, the British monarchy has relied on a carefully maintained system in which assets, influence, and authority are passed down in a structured and predictable way. This system has ensured stability, allowing each generation to build upon the foundations laid by those before them. Within this framework, figures like King Charles III are not simply inheritors of wealth or status, but custodians that carries immense historical and cultural weight. Every decision, particularly those involving private estates or family roles, is measured against the long-term health of the monarchy itself. It is this sense of continuity that has allowed the institution to endure through periods of both stability and upheaval. Against this backdrop, the evolving position of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle introduces a powerful contrast. Their journey has been defined by a desire to step outside traditional expectations, to carve out a path that reflects personal values as much as inherited duty. This choice, while embraced by some as a modern reimagining of royal life, has also created a visible divide between them and the core structure of the monarchy. In this context, any suggestion of renewed influence, particularly through something as symbolically significant as a royal estate, carries profound implications. It challenges the idea that distance from the institution necessarily means separation from its legacy, raising the possibility that the boundaries between inside and outside the royal family are more fluid than they appear. At the same time, the role of Prince William becomes increasingly important in understanding the broader picture. As the heir to the throne, William represents continuity in its most traditional form. His approach to royal duty has been marked by a steady adherence to established norms, combined with gradual effort to modernize certain aspects of the monarchy without disrupting its core identity. This positions him as both a guardian of tradition and an agent of measured change. Any shift in influence involving his brother inevitably draws comparisons, highlighting the different paths the two princes have taken. While one operates firmly within the institution, the other exists at its edge, connected by history, yet shaped by a different set of priorities. The emotional undercurrents of this story also play a significant role. The royal family, for all its public visibility, is still a family, one shaped by relationships that are often as complex as they are private.